I can, based on my own experience in hundreds of being a plaintiff in hundreds of public records lawsuits. My very first public records lawsuit, my legal fees were about $50,000. I just last year settled a case with the city of Lakeland, the police department. My attorneys very heavily discounted fees, way over 50% discount. Was $95,000. The city paid about $60,000 to their attorneys, who didn't do nearly as much work, and who, by the way, did not discount their fees a penny. So the city paid about $160,000 or so. And I've been involved with lots and lots of other cases where the costs were much lower. I mean, I've seen them as little as a few $100s. I offered to settle a case yesterday. I had a hearing yesterday morning in Bartow. I offered to settle a case with a state contractor for $65 and the production of produce the records and give me $65 and we'll call it a day. And their response was no, we're going to litigate this. Okay, so they can be, and I've settled cases, numerous cases, for no cost to me. I've borne my own cost and get a penny out of it. But I'm very frequently asked this question by citizens who are trying to bring a public records lawsuit. And my experience, I think, would be that you, as a private citizen, I would expect that you'd have to be willing to pay at least a $5,000 retainer to get an attorney that has any real competence in this area, because there's not very many attorneys that do a lot of public records litigation. It's a very narrow area of the law. I'd say $5,000 wouldn't be excessive.
Would 50 or 100,000 a piece be excessive?
Well, I just said I have one that was way over $100,000. I mean, I can give you.
Was that an appellate court or a?
No, that was resolved ultimately in mediation. But the city took, I call it doubling down on stupid. They took a position which is an absurd position. And their primary attorney, who is a very nice man, who I have a good relationship with, he wrote a book. I don't remember the title of it. He wrote a book about how law enforcement agencies ought to respond to public records requests, and it was described by the First Amendment Foundation as a manual on how to break the law. In fact, he has since been barred by the city of Lakeland for being involved in any public records responses. His position was obtuse and absurd from the outset. But I see this very often. People take they take a hard position. It's wrong, and they aren't mature enough to admit that they took a bad position, and they need to retrace their steps. And in that particular instance, before I filed suit against the city of Lakeland, I asked the city manager, I asked the chief of police, I asked the chief of administration at LPD, and I asked their general counsel to simply change their policy, which was wholly unlawful. They were charging a flat fee, $23.50 for a single piece of paper, which should have cost 15 cents. I simply asked them, change the policy, we can call it a day. They refused. All of them refused to change the policy. We sued. And $160,000 later, guess what they did? They changed the policy, which we could have done and not spent any money. But I see this all the time. So, yeah, the cost can get real high when you have people that take positions that are simply inconsistent with case law. And I see that shockingly